Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
In the annals of intellectual history, certain works erupt with a volcanic force, their conceptual lava flows reshaping the landscapes of thought for generations. Others seep into the bedrock quietly, their influence percolating through the academic strata for decades before their true magnitude becomes apparent. Gottlob Frege's 1879 monograph, the Begriffsschrift, ein der arithmetischen Nachgebildet Formelsprache des Denkens, or concept script, belongs decisively to the latter category. This slender, deceptively modest volume, cloaked in a notation so alien it actively repelled its contemporary readership, presents one of the most profound and abrupt transformations in the 2,000-year history of logic. Within its dense pages, Frege single-handedly inaugurated the era of modern predicate logic, providing the formal apparatus that would underpin the logicist project, inspire the analytic tradition in philosophy, and ultimately form the computational bedrock of the digital age. To read the Begriffsschrift is to witness the meticulous construction of a new engine for reason itself. The intellectual world into which Frege released his creation was one of profound transition and latent crisis. Logic, for centuries, had remained largely within the confines of the Aristotelian syllogism, a system adept at classifying propositions by subject and predicate but wholly insufficient for the complex inferential patterns required by mathematics. While George Boole's mid-century work had ingeniously applied algebraic methods to logic, his system remained tethered to the old subject-predicate analysis and struggled to capture propositions of multiple generality, such as the statement that for every natural number there exists a greater one. The language of mathematics itself, though powerful, lacked a secure foundation. Concepts like function, continuity, and infinity were used with an intuitive confidence that belied a troubling absence of rigorous definition. Mathematicians like Cauchy and Weierstrass had begun the great project of rigorizing analysis, but a truly foundational language, one capable of expressing mathematical proofs with complete clarity and checking their validity with mechanical certainty, was missing. Frege's ambition, inspired by Leibniz's distant dream of a characteristica universalis, was to create this very language. He sought a tool to dissect thought, to expose the logical skeleton beneath the fleshy ambiguities of natural language, and to use this tool to settle a question of deep Kantian significance are the truths of arithmetic analytic, derivable from logic alone. The Begriffsschrift was to be his scalpel. The system Frege built was revolutionary. In its very architecture, he abandoned the linear, speech-like structure of all previous logical notations for a stark, two-dimensional script. This spatial arrangement was a core element of its design, intended to make the logical relationships within a proposition perspicuous and unambiguous. At the foundation of his script lies the horizontal content stroke, which precedes any formula and indicates that what follows is a potential content for judgment. To this, Frege affixes a small vertical stroke, the judgment stroke, to form the assertion sign. This composite symbol, placed at the very beginning of an asserted formula, performs a crucial philosophical task. It separates the logical content of a proposition from the psychological act of asserting it as true. This was a powerful and psychologistic move, insisting that logic concerns objective, timeless relations between thoughts, separate from the shifting states of any individual mind. From this foundation, the system ramifies. The conditional, the primary logical connective for Frege, is represented by a vertical line connecting two content strokes, one stacked atop the other. The proposition written below is the antecedent, and the one above is the consequent, forming a structure that visually represents the logical dependency of if-then statements. Negation is shown by a small vertical tick placed on the content stroke, denying the content that follows. The true genius of the notation, however, is revealed in its handling of quantification. To express generality, Frege introduces a concavity or small dip in the content stroke, within which he places a German Gothic letter representing the bound variable. This device, the generality stroke, makes the scope of the quantifier visually explicit. The variable is bound over the entire expression that follows on the horizontal line connected to the concavity. For the first time, the logical structure of statements involving multiple quantifiers, the very statements that had crippled earlier systems, could be displayed with perfect clarity. The visual form of a Fregean formula is its logical form. This novel syntax was paired with a semantic reconceptualization that was equally, if less visibly, radical. Frege demolished the traditional subject-predicate analysis of propositions that had held sway since Aristotle. In its place, He introduced the mathematical concepts of function and argument as his primary tools of logical analysis. A proposition like Caesar conquered Gaul is longer viewed as attaching the predicate conquered Gaul to the subject Caesar. For Frege, it is understood through the lens of a function. The expression conquered Gaul is an incomplete symbol, a concept, which can be represented as the function x conquered Gaul. This function is unsaturated, containing a gap waiting to be filled. When an argument, an object name like Caesar, fills this gap, the function yields a value. For Frege, the values of such propositional functions are the two truth values, the true and the false. This function argument modeled to solve a host of ancient logical puzzles and, most importantly, provided a unified framework for handling relations and properties of any complexity. It allowed him to express the intricate nesting of dependencies in mathematical reasoning with an elegance and precision previously unimaginable. Having forged his instrument, Frege committed the final third of the Begriffsschrift to a demonstration of its formidable power. Here, in a breathtaking display of formal rigor, he provides a purely logical definition of a concept essential for his larger project, the ancestral of a relation. He defines what it means for an object y to follow an object x in a series defined by a relation f. In simplified terms, y follows x in the f series if y possesses every property p that is hereditary in the f series and which is possessed by all immediate f successors of x. This definition, constructed entirely from the logical primitives of his concepts cryptologation, conditional, and universal quantification over both objects and properties, was a landmark achievement. It was the first time a genuinely mathematical notion, that of sequence or hereditary succession, had been successfully reduced to purely logical terms. This demonstration was the proof of concept for his entire logicist program, the first critical step on the path to defining the concept of number itself, a task he would take up in his later works. The definition of the ancestral showed that the Begriffsschrift was far more than an eccentric notation. It was a productive calculus for generating new knowledge from logical foundations. Given its revolutionary character, the reception of the Begriffsschrift can only be described as a case of profound intellectual misapprehension. The book sank into an almost immediate obscurity. The reviews it received, few as they were, ranged from baffled to dismissive. The primary obstacle was the notation. Figures like Ernst Schroeder, a leading German logician, acknowledged the work's seriousness but found the two-dimensional script forbiddingly cumbersome and spatially extravagant compared to the familiar algebraic notation of Boole. Giuseppe Pino and his Italian school, who were developing their own, more linear symbolic logic, likewise found Frege's presentation impenetrably idiosyncratic. One might remark, with the benefit of hindsight, that Frege had designed a system of perfect logical clarity that possessed an aesthetic appeal perhaps only its creator could fully appreciate. Consequently, the work had no school, no immediate disciples to translate its dense insights for a wider audience. The seeds of modern logic lay dormant in the soil, waiting a cultivator who could see past the strange foliage to the rich potential underneath. That cultivator arrived 2 decades later in the person of Bertrand Russell. While browsing mathematical literature, Russell stumbled upon Frege's work and, after a period of intense study, experienced an intellectual epiphany. He realized that this obscure German professor had, with superior rigor and clarity, already accomplished much of what he and Alfred North Whitehead were attempting in their own work on the foundations of mathematics. It was Russell who became Frege's great, albeit critical, champion. He adopted the core of Frege's logic, the quantification theory, the function argument, analysis, while discarding the cumbersome notation in favor of a modified Peano-style syntax. For Russell and Whitehead's monumental Principia Mathematica, Fregean logic in a new guise became the standard for the 20th century. The influence, once unleashed, was pervasive. Ludwig Wittgenstein, who travelled to Jena to study with Frege, developed his Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus in direct, sustained dialogue with Fregean ideas about logic, language, and representation. The entire philosophical movement of logical positivism, spearheaded by the Werner Circle, took Frege's work as a foundational text. Rudolf Carnap, a student of Frege's, built his project of the logical syntax of language directly upon the framework his teacher had provided. The anti-psychologism, the focus on logical form, and the pursuit of a perspicuous ideal language that characterized the analytic tradition are all part of the deep legacy of the Begriffsschrift. Frege, in his quest to secure the foundations of arithmetic, had inadvertently supplied the tools for the linguistic turn, a paradigm shift that would dominate vast swaths of philosophy for a century. The paradox, discovered by Russell in 1902, that shattered Frege's mature system in the Grundsätze der Arithmetik did little to diminish the enduring power of the fundamental logical innovations first presented in Wittels in 1879. The discovery of the paradox was itself a testament to the clarity of Frege's system Its axioms were so precisely stated that a contradiction could be formally derived. In conclusion, Gottlob Frege's concept script stands as a work of singular, lonely genius. It represents a clean break from the logical tradition, a leap into a new conceptual space. Its bidding notation ensured its initial obscurity, but its underlying ideas, rigorous theory of quantification and the function argument, analysis of proposition were too powerful to remain hidden. Frege provided a language capable of articulating the structure of deductive reasoning with unprecedented precision, finally realizing Leibniz's dream of a calculus ratiocinator. In solving a problem within mathematics, he forged the primary instrument of 20th century analytic philosophy and laid the theoretical groundwork for the formal systems that now power our world. The 1879 Begriffsschrift is more than a historical curiosity, it is the spring from which the river of modern logic flows, a quiet revolution whose full, resounding impact continues to be felt wherever clarity of thought is the ultimate goal.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.